tonight. The province says it won't be shutting down coal-fired power plants anytime soon. A Regina mother wants the city's landfill searched for her daughter's remains. And we get a first-hand look at some of the fire-devastated areas of northern Saskatchewan.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Thursday, June 19th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. I'm Ethan Williams. Thank you for joining us. The provincial government says its coal-fired power plants won't have to be shut down by 2030 after all. They were supposed to be shuttered to help meet the federal government's clean electricity regulations. But now communities whose economies depend on the power plants say they're pleased with the news. Chris Edwards has our top story.
The Poplar River coal mine and adjacent coal power plant have been Coronac's main employer for decades. Now that the provincial government says the plant will stay open beyond 2030, the town's mayor says his community has been offered a lifeline.
Some people are still coming to adjust to the fact that they're not going to have to sell their house, they're not going to give their house away, and they're not going to have to move. With the commitment basically to 2050. There's lots of us that can work out to the end of life and retire here.
More than 40% of Saskatchewan's power generation comes from coal, and another 44% is produced by natural gas. Renewable energy like hydro and wind comprise less than 15%. The plan to close the coal plants originally stemmed from the federal government's decision to achieve a net zero electricity grid by 2035. Saskatchewan's plan is still for coal to be phased out by 2050 and to be replaced by nuclear power. That's a prospect that Saskatchewan's coal communities aren't against.
I think most people here are accepting that coal is going to change. It may not be here forever, but for the time being, just to bridge that gap into getting us nuclear, it's going to be a long time for nuclear. When we had Sask Power coming down here and talking 2030s, well, what are we doing from 2030 to whenever those nuclear power plants get online?
Right now, Saskatchewan is responsible for a quarter of the country's emissions, much of that from coal plants. It's a dynamic that some experts say is unsustainable.
There's too many risks. And so, I think of it as the equivalent of a movie store. I used to go to Blockbuster to rent movies. And if they were going to go and say, oh, Netflix has come, I think we should probably build more stores, build more outlets and make them fancier. I mean, that's a bad economic strategy.
The federal government hasn't responded to the move yet, and the provincial government hasn't said how much it will cost to keep the plants going, or when nuclear power will go online. Chris Edwards, CBC News, Regina.
Ottawa has unveiled a series of measures designed to support Canada's steel and aluminum industries. It includes a quota on foreign steel and a proposed tax hike on U.S. imports if Canada and the U.S. can't reach a trade deal in a month's time. Prime Minister Mark Carney says Canada's counter tariffs on U.S. steel and aluminum products would go up or down depending on the negotiations with Donald Trump in July. One local steelmaker hopes this means a deal is in sight.
Those owners have their project costs continuing to increase, and then what we see today, if implemented, will continue to increase the project costs. And there's no incentive here for them to keep going ahead with those projects. So they're being put on hold, and that's going to create less projects out in the industry. Pair that with we've lost access to the U.S. market, essentially, and now we have companies locally competing for less work.
Ottawa also plans to limit federal procurement agreements to companies using Canadian steel and aluminum or from countries that do not impose tariffs on Canada. A Regina mother is camped outside the city's landfill, and she says she's staying put and will fast until it's searched for her daughter's remains. Darla Panes reports.
Michelle Bear burns sage and smudges at this vigil at Regina's landfill. It's in honor of her daughter, Rochelle Bear, who was murdered. Michelle believes her daughter's remains are in the landfill.
I believe that my daughter is out here. I believe my daughter was put into a dumpster, and the dumpster ended up at the city landfill. Because the reason I think this is because one of his victims were found in a dumpster.
Michelle is referring to Kelly Goforth, Goforth and Rochelle Bear were both murdered by Clayton Bo Eichler in 2013. Goforth's body was found in the back alley east of downtown. Bear's body still hasn't been found. Michelle is now on day 3 of a hunger strike, hoping the landfill will be searched.
My overall hope is for them to realize that, my daughter is out here. And who knows how many other women are out here that he killed, or how many other serial killers are in Regina, that we're dumping women in here. And I'm only afraid that, these people are going to realize, the city of Regina is not going to look for the women in the dumpsters, so we might as well just keep throwing them there.
Other cities have done similar searches to find missing and murdered women. The remains of Mackenzie Trottier were found in Saskatoon's landfill last year, and the remains of 2 missing women in Winnipeg were found in the city landfill earlier this year. Michelle Bear plans to stay at the Regina's landfill until the city makes plans to search it. A city spokesperson referred CBC News to Regina Police. Police say there's no evidence right now to confirm the location of Rochelle's remains, but investigators will pursue any tips they receive.
I'll be here until death, If they come talk to me, or they come and tell me, Michelle, we're going to try and get a fund together and we're going to start digging.
She hopes she can finally get some answers for her daughter's whereabouts, and maybe some closure. Darla Panes, CBC News, Regina.
The province's public safety agency says it has formed a recovery task force to help communities rebuild from wildfires. We now know nearly 300 primary homes have been destroyed so far, as well as a significant number of cabins and campers. Scott Larson has a look at some of those who lost their homes.
Thousands of people were displaced by wildfires in Saskatchewan over the past weeks. Many have returned home now, but some have nothing to return to. Greg Charles is used to living on the land. The Cree man grew up on a trap line, and he still traps beavers in the summer, like his parents did before him. But wildfires destroyed his home near La Ronge and destroyed his traps. He and his wife are now staying in a tent pitched in a family member's backyard in Air Ronge.
The really hard part is, just like I'm a failure, I can't provide a house for her. It's such I don't know, that feeling stays with you, eh? Even when you go to work, you're trying to do something, that thing is always there.
Others were more fortunate. Shelley Lawrence owns Rainbow Lodge just west of Narrow Hills Provincial Park. She counts herself as one of the lucky ones. Her business at Pipperell Lake survived, but huge swaths of the forest and the campgrounds near her lodge weren't so lucky.
The lodge and the resort has survived. We did lose 41 campsites. We did lose our storage, and we are so incredibly grateful. We could have lost the whole entire resort because it also hit our other 35 campgrounds within feet of buildings.
On Wednesday, the Saskatchewan Public Safety Agency said about 500 homes have been lost in the fires. About half of those are classified as primary residences, while the rest are cabins and campers. For those who lost their homes, like Greg Charles and his wife, it's a daunting task to rebuild their lives from scratch. Everything they owned was consumed by the fires.
All those are lost, moccasins, mucklucks, things that, and also the family albums. Her son had passed away too about 3 years ago, and all those pictures are in there too, so. Yeah, we had a rough life, and we're still having a rough life, but, we're going to have to persevere,
Scott Larson, CBC News, Saskatoon.
And meanwhile, people who lost their homes at Daener Beach are calling on the provincial government to be held accountable after 5 water bombers were grounded during the height of the wildfires. One community member says it will cost millions of dollars to rebuild the northern village.
How's the loss of traditional lands? What's the cost of the mental trauma? You cannot put a price on that. The government needs to answer why they left nearly half their fleet of air tankers sitting on the tarmac collecting dust during the worst wildfires of the decade.
Lentowitz is a certified industrial firefighter and says the Wolf Fire could have been stopped before it reached the town if water bombers attacked it days earlier. One of Saskatoon's best-known developers and philanthropists has died. Joseph Remy helped shape Saskatchewan's skyline and left a legacy to be remembered. Remy co-founded Remy Construction and went on to develop schools, apartments, and other buildings across Saskatchewan. His son Barry tells CBC News it was his drive and determination that made him successful. Remy donated $25 million to Saskatchewan Polytechnic last year, among many of his contributions. He died last Thursday at the age of 89. A funeral is scheduled for June 27th in Saskatoon. Well, it started out as a nice day for some golfing in Regina. We had some sunshine, it was warm, the wind wasn't overly crazy, but things have gotten stormy and the alerts have been pouring in for thunderstorms and tornadoes. Weather specialist Helena Mahalik has been keeping tabs on it all, and we'll break down the latest in her full forecast after the break. Stay with us. The author of a self-published book critical of the Neil Stonechild inquiry has won a defamation lawsuit against a University of Regina professor. Katie Swires has more.
It was a controversial book from the beginning. Candace McLean self-published her book titled When Police Become Prey, The Cold, Hard Facts of Neil Stonechild's Freezing Death almost a decade ago, prompting protests. McLean claimed to clear 2 Saskatoon police officers of wrongdoing. The officers were fired over Stonechild's death after an inquiry found the Indigenous teen was in their custody the night he froze to death on the outskirts of Saskatoon.
You know, I'd spent a fair bit of time setting up book signings with 3 chapters, bookstores, and then when they phoned and said, we're sorry, we have to cancel because we can't guarantee your safety after some of the calls we've been receiving.
McLean sued University of Regina professor Michelle Stewart. Stewart, seen here, did not read the entire book, but called bookstores urging them to cancel book signings. She also called the book racist garbage in a Facebook post. Now, a King's Bench judge has ruled that Stewart defamed McLean. He wrote, "There is nothing in the book which the defendant had not even read to support her description of it as racist. The word racist attacked the plaintiff's character, and the word garbage demeaned the plaintiff's intellect and professional ability as a writer and journalist."
I was really shocked because I'm not a racist person. And that was one of the wonderful things that the judge wrote in his ruling, is that my book, When Police Become Prey, is not racist, and nor am I.
In her affidavit, Stewart argued, quote, "The book is a product of a Vandy press and as such has not been subjected to outside fact-checking nor rigorous scrutiny." Stewart did not respond to our request for comment on the judge's ruling.
Justice Neil Roberts ordered Stewart to pay the author about $6,000 in damages, some for defamation and some for inducing breach of contract related to the cancelled book signings. It's a small fraction of the amount McLean was seeking. Katie Swires, CBC News, Regina.
And weather specialist Helena Mahalik joining us now. Helena, my phone has been blowing up with all kinds of weather alerts. What are we seeing out there?
Yeah, mine too, Ethan. We've been seeing a lot of different intense weather situations today. Some areas even getting tornadoes. We got some photos. Let's take a look at what we see. So this is sent to us via Harrison Webster near Balgony Thursday evening. We're also looking at this one just east of Regina. Environment Canada is tracking these storms that are producing tornadoes. And as of 6:17 Thursday evening, there is a tornado warning in effect for areas around Outlook and Watrous. So if you are in this area and listening live, please seek shelter immediately, preferably in a basement. Thursday evening, we're also seeing many thunderstorm watches and warnings in south and central Saskatchewan, the worst of which is in the southeast. The threat is dime to ping pong sized hail, but the southeast could get up to tennis ball sized hail, wind gusts over 100 kilometers an hour, and heavy periods of rain that could cause flash flooding. We're going to continue to see the rainfall throughout the rest of the week and into the weekend. Friday, we're going to see that in the southwest for areas around Swift Current. And as the evening goes on, we're going to see that move into Saskatoon areas Saturday. The southwest is going to get heavy rainfall Saturday, and that's going to continue into central areas as we get into Saturday evening. And it's not stopping as we look to Sunday. Areas in the southeast are going to be getting that. Areas around Yorkton going to be experiencing some more rainfall. So just how much rainfall accumulation are we going to get? Some areas getting intense amounts, up to 65 millimeters of rainfall could be possible for areas in the west like Kindersley and Outlook. Keep in mind, most of that is just coming from Saturday. Areas in the southeast like Estevan also getting a good amount, close to 35 millimeters in the Carlisle area. Saskatoon getting around 25, and same thing in Regina. So a significant amount of rain coming our way, and we're not seeing too much wind gusts as we get into Friday evening, around 30 kilometers an hour wind gusts. With some of the more intense storms that are coming Saturday, winds will be heavier, notably in central Saskatchewan for areas around Saskatoon, up to 50 kilometers an hour wind gusts. Temperatures will also be cooling down because of that. As we get into Saturday, we're going to see temperatures in south and central Saskatchewan dropping to the mid-teens, Ethan. So things feeling quite cool, lots of storms, so a lot going on in the province this evening.
Yeah, Helena, thank you so much for tracking it all.
Thanks, Ethan.
Well, this week we've been bringing you stories about inspiring people in our province leading up to National Indigenous Peoples Day. Next up, we meet a dad and two daughters who are bringing joy to audiences in real life and on TikTok. Anna May Zeviar has that story.
Chase Sayers says singing has been in his family for generations. And now he's carrying on the tradition of storytelling through song and dance along with his own kids. The trio from Piapot First Nation is getting noticed. They've been invited to cities across North America to perform at hockey games and conferences. They also travel to compete during powwow season. 13-year-old Cree Sayers says she loves being in the spotlight.
When I sing, I look at the crowd and they're smiling, laughing, and it makes me smile because it makes me happy that I'm bringing joy to somebody else.
14-year-old Daener agrees and says it's fun to perform with her dad and sister. Their mom, Kristen, sews their outfits and helps them get ready. Daener says it's also inspiring to read comments when they post on TikTok.
They're always saying, like, keep it going, sing more songs. You guys sound amazing, things like that. It feels good because it makes us want to keep going and keep singing.
This video the family posted ended up going viral. They were hoping for 50 likes, but that turned into many more.
You know, as days went on, it hit hundreds of thousands, and I really lost track of where it went. But the whole aspect behind that song was our First Nations children can relate to the Grinch better than they can to Santa. Okay, ready?
Spending time with his daughters is also breaking cycles for Chase, who says he grew up in a dysfunctional home without parents. It's also bringing a fresh perspective to his community.
People want to see this in our young First Nations women, right? And it inspires the older ones, showing that our ways of life are still alive, dealing with everything that we went through in the past history, right? Is that today we walk different because we're still here.
The family plans to keep going to powwows over the summer and posting more videos on TikTok. Whether they're performing for people in person or online, Chase hopes they can inspire the next generation to use song and dance to be proud of their identity. Anna May Zeviar, CBC News on Piapot First Nation.
The skies above Fana, Denmark are going to be busy over the next few days. It's the 40th anniversary of the region's Kite Festival. Thousands of visitors from more than 20 countries have converged on the Danish island. This 100-meter-long Indonesian kite is, of course, a big draw, and with its wide, flat beaches and steady winds, Daener has become a prime destination for kite enthusiasts. Stay with us. We're back after the break. Welcome back. The Saskatchewan Roughriders are looking to stay undefeated Friday night as they travel to Toronto to face the Argonauts. The Riders are looking to make it 3 straight wins against Eastern opponents. They defeated the Ottawa Red Blacks in Week 1 and took down the Hamilton Ticats 28-23 last weekend. Despite being undefeated, Riders linebacker Jameer Thurman says the team hasn't played anywhere near their standards.
There's no need to have that, when giving up some yards. These are plays that we shouldn't be giving up, so it shouldn't be how it has been, but we've come away with the win and we've made plays when we needed to, so that's the good thing about it. But no, we don't want to give up those plays. We don't want to give up those yards at all. For us as a defense, we have not played our best game. We have given up stuff that we should not be giving up, and if we can put that all together, it's going to get dangerous.
The Riders will not dress running back Kadeem Carey against his former team. Thomas Bertrand Udon is back after a 1-game absence and will take his spot. Kickoff is at 5:30 Friday afternoon. And Helena's back to tell us if we're in for any more storms.
Yes, Ethan, we definitely are in for some more storms. Let's take a look at the forecast for the city of Regina. Friday, we'll have a day of relief from the rain. We're going to be seeing sunny skies, temperatures at seasonal, but as we get into the weekend, Saturday, the heaviest of that rainfall, and temperatures dropping down quite a bit into the mid to even low teens as the weekend goes on. We're going to see the rainfall continue into the start of the work week, but it's going to get weaker each day. Into Tuesday, we're seeing the sun come back and temperatures will slowly climb up through next work week, finally getting back to seasonal, but we will have a few cooler days and a day of breeze as well. Saskatoon, same thing. We're going to be seeing temperatures drop earlier, though. We will see them drop Friday to the 20-degree mark, and as we get into the weekend with that rainfall, temperatures dropping to the mid-teens, or even Sunday just above 10 degrees. We're going to see things continue to feel cooler into next work week, but the sun will be coming back out Tuesday, maybe a breezy day, and our overnight lows will also be quite cool, Ethan, as we see this rainfall. So I don't know about you, but I think it's going to be a weekend to stay inside with a book.
Yeah, feeling more like fall than the first day of summer for a lot of us.
Yeah, temperature's getting a little too cool for my liking.
Yeah, same here. All right, thanks, Helena.
Thanks, Ethan.
And that is it for us. For more news anytime, you can head to our website or subscribe to our YouTube channel or download the CBC News app on your smartphone or tablet. Thanks so much for watching.